Let me tell you something that took me 20 years of working with couples to fully understand. Most men think love is something you say. Women experience love as something they feel, not emotionally, physically, in their body, in their nervous system, in the way your presence either creates safety or takes it away. And the gap between those two things, between what he thinks he's communicating and what she actually feels, that gap is where relationships quietly fall apart. I'm going to show you 5 types of touch that have nothing to do with romance or intimacy in the way you're probably thinking. These are the everyday moments, the ordinary ones, the ones most men walk right past without realizing they just missed the most important opportunity of the day. The first is the greeting touch. When you come home, how do you enter the room? Most men walk in, put their keys down, check their phone, maybe call out a hello from the hallway. Here's what that communicates to her nervous system. You haven't arrived yet. You're physically present, but emotionally still somewhere else. And she feels that, not as criticism, but as a kind of loneliness she can't always name. Think about it this way. Every single day, you have one guaranteed opportunity to remind her that she matters. One moment that costs nothing, requires no planning, no grand gesture, no perfect words. Just the first 30 seconds after you walk through that door. Most men waste it without realizing. Try this instead. When you walk through that door, before anything else, before your phone, before the fridge, before the couch, find her. Touch her shoulder, her arm, the side of her face, briefly, warmly, like arriving near her is the actual reason you came home. Studies on daily couple rituals show that partners who make consistent physical contact during transitions, arriving home, leaving in the morning, saying goodnight, report feeling significantly more emotionally connected than those who don't. The greeting moment specifically was identified as one of the highest impact daily rituals in long-term relationships. That 3-second moment tells her something that paragraphs of words struggle to explain. It says, out of everything that happened today, being near you is still what I came back for. The second is the passing touch. This is the one nobody talks about, and it might be the most quietly powerful of all. You're moving through the kitchen while she's at the counter. You're passing her in the hallway on your way to another room. Most couples in long-term relationships stop touching in these in-between moments entirely. Not out of coldness, out of habit, out of the slow forgetting that happens when life fills every available space. But those small, passing moments of contact, a hand briefly on her lower back as you move past, fingertips grazing her arm, a light touch on her shoulder as you reach past her, they're not small to her nervous system. They're reminders. They say, I still notice you. You're not just part of the furniture of my life. You're still the person I choose to be near. Studies show that couples who maintained regular, non-purposeful physical contact, touch that wasn't leading anywhere, wasn't asking for anything, reported significantly higher relationship satisfaction than those who reserved touch only for intentional romantic moments. The data is consistent across age groups, but it becomes especially powerful in relationships that have passed the 10-year mark, where routine has quietly replaced presence. It's not the touch itself, it's what the consistency communicates over time. The third is the still touch. This is the hardest one for most men because it requires doing absolutely nothing. She's upset, she's exhausted, she's carrying something heavy and you can feel it in the room. And everything in you wants to solve it, fix it, offer a perspective she hasn't considered, find the solution that makes the problem disappear. That instinct comes from a good place. It comes from love. But here's what most men never get told. Solving and supporting are 2 completely different languages. And when she needs one, offering the other creates distance instead of connection. Studies on emotional support in long-term relationships consistently show that women report feeling most supported, not when their partner offers solutions, but when their partner remains physically present without trying to change what they're feeling. The simple act of staying close, without an agenda, without words, activates the nervous system's safety response more effectively than any conversation. But sometimes, more often than most men realize, the most powerful thing you can offer is simply your hand on her back. Still, warm, present, not going anywhere. No words, no advice, no reframing. Just the physical fact of you staying close. I worked with a couple. I'll call them Daniel and Sarah, both in their late 50s, together for 28 years. Daniel was an engineer by training, logical, solutions-oriented, genuinely devoted to his wife. But every time Sarah was struggling, he'd immediately begin troubleshooting, offering perspectives, suggesting approaches, trying to help in the only language she'd ever learned. Sarah finally said something to me in one of our sessions that I've never forgotten. She said, "I don't need him to fix it. I just need to feel like he's willing to sit in it with me." Daniel heard that and went quiet for a long time. He told me afterward that he'd been trying to prove he loved her by solving her problems for nearly 3 decades, when what she actually needed was for him to just stay still. He started doing one simple thing. When she was overwhelmed, instead of talking, he'd sit beside her and put his hand on her back. No agenda, no words unless she spoke first. Within weeks, Sarah told me she felt closer to him than she had in years. Not because anything had been fixed, because for the first time, she didn't feel alone inside her own feelings. The fourth is the face touch. This one is rare in long relationships. And that rarity is exactly what makes it land so differently. At some point, and most couples can't even identify when, people stop touching each other's faces. It becomes something that belonged to early romance, to the beginning, when everything felt urgent and new. Somewhere between the years and the responsibilities and the 1,000 ordinary days, it quietly disappeared. Nobody decided to stop. It just happened. The way most important things in relationships happen, not in a single moment, but in the gradual accumulation of moments that were missed. But the face is where a person actually lives. It's where emotion is most visible, most unguarded, most honest. When you reach out and gently hold her face, not to initiate anything, not as a prelude to something else, just to look at her, to hold the moment. She feels seen, not observed, seen. There's a difference, and her nervous system knows it immediately. Studies on nonverbal intimacy show that facial touch between long-term partners triggers one of the strongest emotional bonding responses the body produces. More than a hug, more than holding hands, because the face is the most vulnerable part of a person to offer, and the most significant part to receive with gentleness. What makes this touch so powerful in a long relationship is precisely how rare it has become. When something that once happened naturally suddenly reappears with intention, it doesn't just feel loving. It feels like being chosen again, like being seen by someone who has every reason to stop looking and decided not to. Try it this week. No agenda, no explanation needed. Just let your hand rest gently at her jaw and hold the moment for a few seconds longer than feels comfortable. Look at her like she's still someone you're learning. Women have described this as one of the most unexpectedly intimate things a long-term partner can do, because it communicates something words rarely manage. I'm not just used to you, I still actually see you. This leads us to the most unguarded moment of the entire day, the bridge between being awake and drifting off. The fifth is the falling asleep touch. The last moments before sleep are when the nervous system is most open, most receptive, most honest. The defenses of the day are down. Whatever armor people carry, the busyness, the distraction, the emotional management, it softens right at the edge of sleep, and that makes it one of the most significant moments of the entire day. Not because anything dramatic happens, but because of what the body is capable of receiving in that space. Most couples in long relationships fall asleep without any physical contact at all. They share the same bed for years and drift off as separate people, side by side. It becomes normal so gradually that neither person notices when it started. One night they were close, then one night they weren't, and somewhere in between, a habit formed that nobody chose. Studies on sleep and relationship bonding show that couples who maintain physical contact during the transition into sleep, even something as minimal as a hand resting on a shoulder, report significantly lower levels of loneliness within the relationship and higher overall feelings of emotional security. The data suggests that the body processes that final point of contact as a kind of emotional summary of the day, a conclusion, a reminder of where you stand with the person beside you, a hand resting on her shoulder as she settles, your arm across her side. It doesn't need to be more than that. No words required, no grand gesture, just the quiet, unhurried fact of you choosing to remain close even as the day ends. But that small point of contact as she moves towards sleep communicates something the rest of the day rarely has space for. I'm here. You're safe. At the end of everything, I'm still choosing to be close to you. That message, received by the nervous system at its most open and unguarded moment, does something that hours of conversation sometimes cannot. It reaches the part of her that stopped listening to words a long time ago and started paying attention only to what your presence actually does. Because here is what most men never realize. She isn't measuring your love in the big moments. She's measuring it in the last 5 minutes before she falls asleep, when you had every reason to simply turn over and drift off, and instead you stayed close.